After defeating 10 opponents, Jin strode across the brightly tiled arena, heading towards the remaining apprentices. He stopped right in front of Bellop Schmitz. Bellop's entire body trembled with fear, cold sweat pouring out. He couldn't understand. Why did the young lord choose me? Is it because I'm weak and he wants to use me to demonstrate his power and enforce military discipline? Bellop, Jin called out, his voice strangely calm. Bellop flinched, stammering, "Yes, young lord." Jin looked directly at the panicked apprentice, slowly explaining, "I'm quite tired after fighting 10 people, but you, on the other hand, are perfectly healthy. Even so, I will still be stronger than you. That's why I want to fight you." Huh? Bellop was confused, not understanding Jin's meaning. What does that mean? Before he could comprehend, Jin lunged forward. A surge of crimson killing intent enveloped him as he swung his sword down from above with terrifying speed. Surprised by the attack, Bellop could only let out a cry of alarm and hastily raised his sword to parry. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out piercingly. The force from Jin's strike was immense, pushing Bellop back, his arms numb. "Ah, young lord, why are you—" His question was cut short by a flurry of stormy attacks. Jin gave his opponent no second to breathe, the sword in his hand transforming into a swirling tempest of azure steel, raining down blows continuously. Clang, clang, echoed throughout the arena as Bellop struggled to defend, completely overwhelmed by Jin's power.
The sharp clanging of 2 wooden swords echoed across the snow-covered training ground. Bellop gritted his teeth, exerting all his strength to parry Jin's powerful attack. "You parried well," Jin remarked, a confident smile playing on his lips while his eyes remained as sharp as knives. Surprised by the praise, Bellop could only stutter, "Thanks." But in that very instant, Jin acted. He suddenly swung his hand, flinging a handful of freezing snow directly into Bellop's face. Caught off guard, Bellop cried out, then staggered backward, frantically raising a hand to rub his eyes. Without wasting a second, Jin lunged forward like a ghost. Seizing his opponent's opening, he spun and delivered a thunderous kick to Bellop's side. The forceful impact made Bellop scream in pain and sent him flying. He stumbled onto the cold stone ground, one hand clutching his aching ribs, his face contorted in agony, struggling to get back on his feet after the attack.
Jin's wooden sword stopped just before Bellop's neck, who lay sprawled on the ground gasping for breath. The student's eyes widened, filled with horror and disbelief. "Young master, what are you doing?" Jin looked down coldly, his shadow engulfing his opponent. "Did you think I called you here just to fight?" Jin said. "I could have killed you right then." He retracted his sword, his voice without a hint of mercy. "Get up. I will only be merciful this one time." Staggering to his feet, leaning on his sword, Bellop felt the whispers from the other students observing from afar. Just then, a dazzling golden light unexpectedly erupted from his body. "That's aura?" Mesa exclaimed in astonishment, her eyes wide as she witnessed the incredible sight. A growl escaped Bellop's throat as a powerful stream of aura surged around him, transforming the ordinary wooden sword into a dazzling weapon. Intense power radiated outwards, making the surrounding air vibrate. Fear was evident on Mesa's face, and she hastily said, "Instructor Garen Altermere, we must stop this. If it continues, young master will be in danger." Garen frowned, his expression tense, but before he could act, Jin's voice rang out, cold and authoritative. "This is an order. What you have seen today, take it to your graves." The Runkendel young master's command was absolute. Garen bowed, his voice resigned. "I understand." Mesa, standing beside him, was utterly speechless. Enveloped in a golden aura, Bellop looked directly at Jin, his eyes no longer fearful but instead filled with resolve. "Is this truly what you want, young master?" A satisfied smile briefly appeared on Jin's lips. "Yes." Jin looked straight at his opponent. "If you know how to use aura," Jin spoke, his voice calm and provocative, "then don't hold back." Jin's challenge was like a fuse igniting a powder keg. Bellop Smith's face contorted, he gritted his teeth, and fury flared in his eyes. His usual carefree demeanor vanished, replaced by cold resentment. "You've made a mistake, young master," Bellop growled, each word hissing through his clenched teeth. "If you wanted to fight me, you should have fought me first." The moment the words left his mouth, Bellop erupted. A brilliant yellow aura burst from his body, swirling like a storm. With a resounding roar, he lunged forward, his form blurring. The wooden sword in his hand, now enveloped in a dazzling light, struck down with the power of lightning. Faced with the furious assault, Jin remained calm. He raised his sword to parry. The two wooden swords clashed with a deafening bang, a violent burst of red and yellow energy erupting. The tremendous impact created a shockwave that rippled outwards, knocking both individuals backward. Their feet slid across the stone floor, leaving deep gouges as dust and debris scattered. After the initial clash, there was a brief silence. Jin regained his footing, but his heart pounded. Astonishment was evident in his deep blue eyes. He remained silent, his mind attempting to process the incredible power he had just faced. I didn't expect him to be this strong, Jin thought to himself, a sense of surprise creeping in. I already knew Bellop was powerful. Every time the student sparred, he'd figure out his opponent's skills and strategies, then fight evenly before deliberately losing in a plausible way. A memory flashed through Jin's mind. Bellop in previous matches easily grasping opponents, then accepting a calculated defeat, leaving them to celebrate an empty victory while he seemed to be analyzing something. In that instant, Jin couldn't help but feel a little surprised. I didn't expect him to be able to use aura. Facing him, Bellop let out a roar, pouring all his strength into his greatsword. A brilliant golden aura burst forth, enveloping the massive blade as it struck down with immense force. In response, Jin also mustered his strength, his sword glowing with the cold blue energy, directly confronting the fierce assault. The two energy surges collided violently, creating a deafening explosion that shook the entire arena. Gah! Bellop gritted his teeth, his whole body trembling from the impact on his sword-wielding hand. Huh? Bellop exclaimed in horror. Disarmed, Bellop was completely exposed. Seizing the fleeting opportunity, Jin darted forward like a phantom. His armored hand clenched Bellop's gorget, effortlessly lifting his opponent off the ground as if it cost him no effort at all. Before Bellop could regain his composure, Jin quickly subdued him from behind. Bellop lay sprawled on the ground, motionless. The match was over.
Bellop knelt on the cold arena floor, his golden hair disheveled, obscuring his sweat-drenched face. He panted, struggling to get up, but it was futile. His eyes looked up, full of bewilderment and resentment, staring intently at Jin. "Why did you stop?" Bellop stammered, his voice hoarse from exhaustion and anger. "You said you wanted a real fight, so you should fight to the end." Jin merely stood there silently, his expression strangely calm, his blue eyes unruffled. Jin's silence was like adding fuel to the fire. Bellop roared, a surge of choked bitterness welling up in his chest. "Do you enjoy toying with people that much?" "Why would I enjoy it?" Jin replied softly, his voice even. "Then why?" Bellop screamed, despair evident in his eyes. Jin's gaze shifted slightly, a hint of sadness appearing. "Provoking you like this, it pains me greatly," he said, his voice lowering. "Even more than you think." His iron-gloved hand clenched, emitting a dry clink. Bellop was utterly confused. "What do you know about me to push me to this point?" Jin bent down to pick up the wooden sword lying on the floor, his movements slow and decisive. "As you said, I don't know you, but there is one thing I do know." He turned to face Bellop, his gaze becoming unusually sharp. "Concern is a luxury reserved only for the strong. You are weaker than me and kinder than me. Of course, that's something I like, but—" Jin stepped closer, placing his ironclad hand on Bellop's shoulder. The unexpected touch made Bellop flinch, looking up in surprise. Jin's voice rang out, sharp yet laden with the weight of brutal truth. "You won't survive this hell if you keep that kindness."
Jin looked straight at Bellop, his voice both serious and sincere. "Bellop, become strong enough to protect that kindness of yours. With me and with everyone, I apologize for being too harsh." Bellop knelt on the white stone floor, his golden hair matted with sweat, his face drenched in tears. He sobbed silently, feeling both wronged and exhausted. Jin knelt beside him, gently placing a hand on his teammate's shoulder, a fleeting, encouraging smile on his lips. Just then, a few servants carrying steaming pots of soup and baskets of fragrant bread entered the yard. They were stunned by the sight before them. One woman exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my!" Another whispered anxiously, "The training isn't over yet. Should we come back later?" Hearing them, Jin looked up, his voice still calm. "It's all right, just bring it in." Hearing this, Bellop quickly wiped away the lingering tears on his cheeks. He stood up straight, though a little unsteady, but his eyes shone with a new flame of determination. He looked at Jin and said decisively, "Young master, please go get today's meal." Jin looked at Bellop's resolute face, a warm and satisfied smile spreading across his own. The sunlight illuminated his dark hair, making his smile even more radiant. "All right," Jin replied, "bring yours along with mine."